We're back with Inside the Green Room with one of the best bus riders of all time, Danny Green, and one of the premier bus drivers of the 90s, one Mr. Charles Barkley. Thank you for joining us, Chuck.
No, man, it's a pleasure. I got a lot of love for Daddy. I'm not doing it for you. I'm only doing it for him. I'm not doing it for him.
I appreciate it, man. So we were lucky enough to have a couple guys. We had one of your co-hosts, Kenny, on with us during the pandemic. It was during The Last Dance when that came out. And Kenny gave us some good, insightful stories of Carolina. I was going to ask you about your time at Auburn, how that was. And back then, because obviously we're seeing a lot of the Lakers winning time. I'm wondering how it was for you growing up, especially in college. And of course, when you first got to the league, like behind the scenes with Dr. J, I'm seeing a little bit of how he was with Magic. I'm wondering how it was for you coming in.
It was great for me, Danny, because the best thing ever happened to me was Moses Malone. Mm-hmm. I've told this story. When I first got to the NBA, I played about 292 to 295 pounds in college.
Sheesh.
And I was the fifth, and I led the league in rebounding every year I was in school for 3 years. So, but I always tell people, I didn't know I was out of shape. And so I was the number 5 pick in the draft, but I wasn't really getting to play. And I said, me and Moses happen to live in the same building. And I went to him, I said, yo, Mo, can I come up and talk to you tonight? He said, sure, young fella. And I said, Moses, why am I not getting to play? And he said, you fat and you lazy. I'm like, damn. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, you got a lot of talent, but you're fat and you're out of shape and you can't work hard enough. You can't sustain it. You can do that in college. You can't do that in the NBA. And it was a turning point in my career. And this guy, who's already one of the all-time greats, says, listen, I'll work with you before practice, after practice. And Danny, he said, let's lose 10 pounds. So I get to 290. He said, let's lose 10 more. I get to 280. And now I'm starting to play and almost starting. I get to 270, 260, 250. I can get down to 240, but I'm not really, don't have strength. He said, I figured out 250 is your perfect weight. And the thing that's crazy, if he had told me I had to lose 50 pounds when I first started, I probably would have said, man, there's no way I can lose 50 pounds. But it changed my entire life, got me in shape, and the rest is history from a basketball standpoint. But, Dr. J would talk to me about saving my money. So I really think guys like yourself, and I'm not just saying it because some of your podcasts, if you get a vet on your team and who's gonna be like, who wants everybody to be successful, that's a really important thing. I think what's skewed now is all these dudes are like 18, 19, 20. Yeah. And I'm not asking no 22-year-old for advice.
Yeah.
Doc and Moses, Maurice Cheeks, Andrew, Tony, and Bobby Jones, and all those guys, man, they were like 36, 37. They taught me how to dress. I remember the first time we went shopping because, I still had college money and I wasn't making no money. And so I was still trying to wear warm-up suits everywhere. So these guys took me shopping and we spent about $30,000. I got about 15 to 17 suits, and I got about 10 or more sports coats and slacks. And I remember pulling out my credit card, and it was $30,000, and I had never spent anything close to that in my life. I had to call my agent and says, yo, man, these guys hated the way I dressed. They said, you don't dress like you're in college. You can't be wearing warm-up suits and crap on the road. They took me to Boyd's in Philadelphia, still there to this day. And I spent $30,000, but stuff like that, like, yo, man, you're a grown man. This is professional basketball. And because, Danny, the other thing, too, we were flying commercials back then.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a way different time. Bringing your own equipment and your own gear.
Yeah, they're like, Rook, you can't be walking through the airport with warm-ups on. You got to dress like a grown man now. So, man, it was great coming to Philly with Doc and Moses, Maurice Cheeks and Andrew Tony and those guys. I mean, it was great. So I don't know if you ever heard this story. So I didn't want the Sixers to draft me because what happened was back in my day, we had a hard salary cap. So the Sixers draft me with the number 5 pick. So I go visit Philly about a month before the draft. and I weighed 292. So the owner of the Sixers says, everybody think you're going to eat your way out the league. I said, I'm going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. So my agent, we go down to Houston. He says, the owner says, I want you to stop in Philly on your way to New York. We want to weigh you before the draft, and I want you to be 285. So I go down to Houston for a month. And I'm playing. First time I meet Moses, it's hot as hell down there. I get down to about 282. The night before we're flying to Philly on our way to New York for the draft, my agent says, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? He says, you know the most money the Sixers can give you is $75,000. I said, yo, man, I didn't leave college for $75,000. He said, well, I don't know what to tell you. The Sixers want to take you, but they think you're going to eat your. I said, they made me lose that weight. He said, yeah, they probably going to draft you. So for the next 2 days, we got up every morning. We went to Dennis, got the Grand Slam breakfast, got a milkshake, went out to lunch.
Started eating everything.
Hey, it got me a couple of big old sandwiches, eat potato chips, went out to dinner, and I'm in Texas, so I'm getting a big old steak. I'm getting carrot cake for dinner. We do that
big
2 days.
Plates.
We do that 2 days in a row. We fly to Philly. I weigh 315. That's how, yeah. I picked up all that weight in like 2 days. I get on the scale, I weigh 315. The owner of the Sixers, you fat mother. We're not gonna draft your fat ass, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like acting like I'm hurting everything. And I'm like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. And I'm smiling on the inside. I said, whoo, I just dodged a bullet. We go up to he called me every name in the book. So me and my agent go up to New York, and we think we're going to Washington at 6. Because I hadn't even visited Washington, and Washington wanted me. They didn't know I was going, because it was going to come down to me and Sam Perkins. I think he was 4, I was 5. I think Akeem was 1, Sam Bowie was 2, Michael was 3, Perkins was 4, I was 5. So they said, with the 5th pick in the 1984 NBA draft, the Philadelphia 76 select Charles Barkley, Auburn. I'm like, oh, shit. And and you go back and look at the footage, I got this look on my face like, damn. But in fairness to the Sixers, they end up trading 3 players. And my first contract was 4 years, $2 million. But man, you talk about somebody that was terrified walking on that draft stage. I'm like, damn, I left college for $75,000.
That's wild.
Pretty disappointed. I'm sure you're disappointed. Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody on draft day is disappointed if they're not number 1. I just feel like that usually happens. But
hey, listen, I tell people, man, don't worry about that. Because you want to go to the best situation.
Yeah.
I mean, because you got to remember something. Those teams that pick number 1, they probably really suck. Yeah. You're like, no, man, I want to go to a team because if you go to a team that's bad, you're going to continue to be bad. And I tell people this, I don't care how rich you are, how famous you are. When you're on a bad basketball team, they said a season lasts like 82 games. When you're on a bad team, it lasts like 125 games. I mean, it is brutal. You're like, damn, it's just now February? It's just now January? Like, and you're like, you're out of the playoff picture. And you're like, come on, man. I think I played on 2 teams that we were out of it by Christmas. And I was playing great, but we had no chance of winning. And it was the longest damn season ever when you're losing like that.
Man.
Yeah, Danny's definitely fortunate. After his Cleveland days, he was able to end up in San Antonio, which has obviously been a great one, which was a great stop for him in his career. You mentioned how Dr. J and Andrew, Tony, and Moses Malone helped you be the NBA player and professional that you became to be, and eventually become a premium bus driver. I've been telling Danny, and I've been saying it to some of my friends on the side too, that he has a chance as a bus rider. If he wins a title with the Philadelphia 76ers, I think he'd be the first NBA player to have 4 titles with 4 NBA teams, and he would do it as a starter as well. Add in the North Carolina National Championship, the McDonald's All-American. He might not be at your table at the Hall of Fame, but he could maybe get a little sidebar at the Hall of Fame if he could pull this off.
You know, everybody. So Kenny was so upset the other day because Kenny misconstrued what bus driver and bus riders mean. He was kind of Kenny was like, no, the bus rider is important. I says, you're trying to defend your status. Mm-hmm. I says, everybody on the bus is important. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. Everybody on the bus is important. But unfortunately, there's a double standard when you at the big boy table and guys who have championships, they at a different table. Yeah. And especially like I say, guys who, and I'm talking about guys who are in the Hall of Fame in fairness. Mm. Like every time I'm with Shaq, he can say I haven't won a championship. He can say that to Karl Malone and John Stockton and Patrick Ewing. And guys who got more, they like Michael, Magic, LeBron, Kobe, they're at a different table than me and Karl. And there's no shame in that. But the bus driver thing, the point I was trying to make, the amount of pressure and mentality is going to be, when you have to be the best player on the court every single night, that's a totally different animal than coming to work saying, I can have a bad game and nobody going to even notice. Mm-hmm. But the mental toughness to know, like, every game I have to be the best player, it's just a different animal. And that's all the bus driver is. And let me tell you something. And listen, Kevin Durant's a terrific player. Mm-hmm. But he's never had, he had a chance to be the bus driver, and he's never won a championship when he wasn't one of the other guys. And I was just trying to make the point, hey, you don't get to make excuses when you don't win. That's just the way it is. I don't get to make excuses. I'm like, no, I didn't win when I was a guy. I have to accept that and deal with it. And Kevin has to accept that too. I mean, if you've heard LeBron say, I had to win a championship away from Dwayne and those guys. Kobe Bryant said it. I had to win a championship without Shaq because they understand. And even Shaq, you know what's really funny? Shaq, which, first of all, he's the most sensitive dude in the world. He even said, he says, hey, Kenny, I was a bus rider when I was in Miami. And there's no shame in that. But it was funny. Kenny was trying to defend himself because he was assuming that when I said bus driver, bus rider, you're trying to say the guys on the ride on the bus, dude, you're trying to prove that you were a good NBA player. That everybody in the NBA is a good player. I'm just trying to tell you the difference from being a bus rider and a bus driver. Of course, everybody on the bus is important. But Kenny was trying to defend himself. And we were laughing about it, being Shaq, like, Kenny, we know you were a good player. Everybody in the NBA is a good player. But the point that we're making is a different when you have to be the guy every night, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we all got what you were saying. And we said that your all-stars, they have to show up every night. And, you know, it's different when you have less guys to share the wheel with. You know what I'm saying? KD, he obviously won, but he had more guys sharing the wheel with him. You know what I'm saying? When you're in Brooklyn, it's just you and Kyrie, really, you're down another all-star. So you're not, you and Kyrie pretty much steering the bus the whole time. And it's a lot more pressure, a lot more attention. But so everybody in the bus is important. But when you're the guy, you know, steering the bus and you don't have a bunch of other people helping you steer share time, you got a lot more pressure on you. And it's a lot harder to say, I could never do it. So, and I've never been in that position, but I've been very lucky. I've been blessed. As you've seen, Harrison's listed off my resume that I've been lucky to be on some great teams. But yeah, driving the bus is a different animal, like you said, and it's tough to see certain guys under different lights, different pressure, and even some of the most mentally toughest guys in the world have meltdowns or breakdowns or have bad or rough years, and you see it in many different cities, even in LA. So yeah, it's a different animal.
Yeah, and that's the only point I was trying to make. But like I say, Kenny wanted to prove that he was a good NBA player. And he's like, well, I was a dude, relax. Everybody in the NBA is a good player. But he started stuttering. Like, I'm like, yo, man, don't try to defend your position. We're talking about the Kevin Durant situation. Has nothing to do with you being on the bus. Everybody on the bus is important.
Which
Kenny was
leads
a great
me,
player.
Yeah, for sure. And then, part of the reason why it's a bit harder to be a bus driver nowadays is because there is Twitter,
a lot of social
Instagram,
media.
And I know Danny's embraced social media. We got to get you, Chuck.
Yeah, we got to get you on Twitter and Instagram, man. We got to get you on social media.
Hey,
we gotta be able...
Danny, you ain't won that many championships. I'm never getting on social media. Because listen, there might be some there. There are probably some positives to Twitter and things like that. But for me, I'm not a big negativity guy. What I mean by that is, if something happened, I don't feel the need to go on the internet and say something mean-spirited to somebody. Like, I just never have felt that, like, hey, let me say something rude or asinine or just be mean to somebody. And I said, I'm just going to take that equation out of my life. So no matter how much money I have been offered to do Twitter and Instagram and things, I said, hey, you know what? I think I got enough money. I'm not talking to these fools. I'm not talking to them.
You could use it in a positive light, though, too. There's other, I get that there's always to be a negative attention that people bring on towards you, and people have access to comment on things you may say or do. But I think a lot of people use it for the news. Twitter is like the new news. Everybody gets a lot of chance to get the news first on Twitter. Instagram, people get an insight on who you are behind the scenes of TNT and, your life and how you came about becoming a broadcaster. Different things like that. And also how your golf swing may look. We get a chance to see what that looks like on Instagram. On another note, man, you said you take your months in Philadelphia. You also take your months in Scottsdale.
Yes.
The Phoenix Suns are another great team in the NBA this year. I could imagine us, Philly, and Phoenix being in the finals would be your ultimate final situation.
It would be my ultimate. It would be the ultimate, because those are the only two NBA teams I root for. Philadelphia means a lot to me. I spent my first 8 years in the NBA there. And let me tell you something, man, I always tell people, I come from a small town in Alabama with a couple thousand people, and then they dropped me off in Philadelphia. I said, they should have sent me to prison for like 6 months to learn how to train. Because you should never come from a small town in Alabama and go right to Philadelphia. I'm like, damn.
In the 80s and 90s, oh man, that was a way different time then too. So
but
I couldn't imagine.
Those fans in Philly, they're not gonna change though. They love you or they're gonna hate you. And I love that. They've always treated me great, but they've treated some of my teammates awful. I played with a guy who would pick up 2 fouls within the first 5 minutes of every game. And we asked him one time, yo, man, why do you do that stupid shit all the time? And he said with a straight face, man, I just can't take the pressure. The fans, they leave me alone when I'm sitting on the bench. We're like, what do you mean? He said, when I'm in the game, they're screaming crazy stuff at me. But when I'm out the game, I get peace and quiet. And I said, dude, are you getting 2 fouls just to get taken out the game? And he looked at me with a straight face and said, yes.
Wow.
I don't want to be on the floor. Philly's killing me. That's unreal. That's unreal.
It is.
Wow.
Because when they turn on you, that's like with this thing with Ben. I've been saying he can't ever play in Philly again. And they're like, well, what if he comes back, apologize? I said, no. He's not. No, he's done in Philly. I said, once he kind of crapped on the team and the fans, I said, he can never play. They said, what if he does this? I said, yo, man, I told you. Quit making me repeat myself. Ben Simmons will never play another game for the 76ers. I was telling guys that last summer when I was there. Because some of those guys I play golf with, they are newscasters and radio guys. I'm like, oh, yo, he's done here. He's never going to play here again.
You know the city and the fans better than we do. But back to that matchup. If we were to match up, and I'm sorry, H, to cut you off, because I have a lot of questions there. If us and Phoenix were to match up in the finals, who would the team you'd be rooting for?
Man, you know, I really that would be painful for me for two reasons. That would be painful for me because, you know, when you're on this shit list. We call it the shit list. Guys who were great players who didn't win the championship. Mm-hmm. I will have a hard time choosing. Now, Chris Paul deserves to win. He deserves it.
I agree, just not against us. I hope. So.
Yeah, but I want Joel because he's a great player. Also, I would love to see him win because this is probably going to be one of Chris's last chances. Mm-hmm. I mean, Joel still got probably another 10 years to try to win it. So I'd probably be rooting for Chris because he's at the end of his career. But if the Sixers won, I'd be happy for Joel because, you know, he's on that up-and-coming group that guys going to be great players, going to win the MVPs. Because once you win MVP, and I was fortunate enough to win it, you go to that next level, and they're like, now you got to win the championship. And, man, my heart broke when I saw that he got hurt. And that changed the entire complexity of this series. And, my heart was breaking for him. And like I say, I think he's going to win the MVP. I don't have a vote, but if I had a vote, I would have given it to him. But, man, that's such a bad break. And what's really crazy, we talked about it last night, he had the same injury last time y'all played the Heat. You might not have been on the team yet.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
But you know what's crazy? It was the other eye.
Yeah.
I mean, what are the chances of you breaking your eye socket against the same team but different eyes? That's just like one of the craziest things ever.
And it's an incredible, unfortunate circumstance for the Sixers for sure, which leads me to, you know, you talked about the fan reception in Philadelphia. And without Joel Embiid, that means a lot more James Harden. However you see him fit, whether he's supposed to be the 30-point per game scorer, whether he's supposed to be an even better facilitator, playmaker / point guard. Chuck, how do you feel about what you saw from James Harden in game one and what the Sixers actually need from him with and without Joel Embiid?
Well, James had a good first half and he didn't play good in the second half. He only had 4 points. I thought he was aggressive. I don't understand why he got to be more aggressive. He's got to be more aggressive.
Now that Joel is out, we need him to be more of a scorer. I agree. But I think with Joel, when he's playing, James could just be the point guard that we need him to be. But with Joel out, he probably needs to score a little more. I still don't think he needs to get 30 a game. People acting like he needs to score 30 a game. I think he can get 20, 25 and still be a great point guard and make the right plays because he draws so much attention that it'll open up the floor for us. But we will see. I'm sure we'll see a different game, James, in game two.
Well, and only between 25 and 30. It just depends on how many assists he got. I mean, to me, that's going to be different. If he's only going to get 25, he's got to get 12 to 15 assists. But I think that the Sixers got to go small, and just because the thing is, Miami's not an overly big team. They really only got one big guy. So I would turn it into a track meet, a shooting contest. Mm-hmm. I think that's the only way the Sixers can win. They're not going to get killed on the boards because, like I say, other than Bam Adebayo, they don't have a bunch of big guys. So I would go small and just turn it into a three-point shooting contest. I wouldn't totally rely on threes. I'd go to the basket sometime, but I'd turn into a track meet and a small ball game. I think that's the only chance the Sixers got until Joel comes back, because Joel was going to be the only advantage they had. because Miami can't. Well, nobody can guard him. Number one, nobody can guard Joel when he get his big butt in the post and stop shooting threes. But now, like I say, they got to go small and turn into a 3-point shooting contest.
Yep, we'll see how that pans out. Last night, DeAndre Jordan was a minus 22 in 17 minutes. Sixers fans, NBA Twitter have been very persistent in pointing that out. So, Chuck, but I'm going to ask you for a guarantee before you get out of here.
Hey, I'm going to tell you this. Hey, let me tell you something. DeAndre needs to be sitting over there beside Doc Rivers and those guys. You know, it's over for DeAndre, and he's had a hell of a career, but he can't play, especially in today's NBA. Today's NBA, unless you can move, it's very difficult for you. So he had a hell of a career, but now I'm trying to think. Are there any big man? Okay, DeAndre Ayton's a big man. Rudy Gobert's gone home. Dallas doesn't have a big guy. Golden State doesn't have a big guy. Memphis really don't have a big guy. So that's a real disadvantage for DeAndre. Like there's really, I mean, other than Ayton, I don't see any big guys that he can match up with. I mean, he's too older and slower to guard Bam.
Well, so when Memphis plays Steven Adams, that's a matchup. If that ever happened
right now. But other than that, you know, the big guys who can't move can't play in today's NBA game, and that's not fair to DeAndre to put himself out there.
I think we play him in spurts. I think DeAndre can be very effective. I said he's a good lob threat for James when he gets to the rim. He just has to have the spacing. We got to know he just has to be very active on the glass for us to give us a plus. Defensively protecting the rim and just getting boards, and offensively trying to get putbacks or tip outs so that we can get extra possessions. But you got to play him in spurts. Paul Reed, another one, same thing. He's very active. He can move. He just has to stay out of foul trouble. But yeah, when we're down Joel, but we're not used to having or seeing, we don't have a lot of backup big options. But I think DeAndre will be better in game 2 when we do play him, and I said play him in spurts. And we'll see what happens.
Chuck, I know I want to get a guarantee before you get out of here, but real quick, series prediction. If Joel plays game 3 and it's assumed to be healthy throughout the duration, what happens in this series?
Well, it really would come down to both of those games in Philly. Philly gonna have to win both of those games at home to make this a competitive series. I don't think they're gonna win tomorrow because I think they're too small, and Miami's small, but we don't have Joel. So I think that they're gonna be down 0-2 going back to Philly, and they're gonna have to win both of those games, or it's gonna be a quick 4-1 gentleman's sweep. And listen, let me tell you something. I feel so bad for Joel because he's had a monster year, but man, injuries, it just sucks because to me, this was a pick'em series going in before Joel got hurt. And now Miami has a huge advantage. Like I say, they probably gonna be up 2-0 going back to Philly. And then the thing you got to worry about with Joel, he gonna have to, I don't know, because he got the concussion thing, I don't think he's been able to work out at all. So it's going to be interesting how he comes back.
Definitely feels like there'll be no warm-up, feel-it-out games for Joel. He had to come back and look like an MVP right away. But yeah, still game 2 is still on the table. Wanted to get to the NIL thing that's happening. You just covered March Madness, Chuck, and obviously, Danny, you played at North Carolina. Isaiah Wong from the Miami Guard has threatened to transfer from the University of Miami because one of the boosters who owns his company, I'm forgetting the names now and the details. I think it's, we'll get it later. But essentially, Isaiah Wong has threatened to transfer to another school because another player is coming in from Kansas State and is making more money than him in his NIL deal. And we're going to start to see that a lot more. Kids in the locker rooms are going to be comparing how much money they're getting in the NIL and then threatening to transfer. it is an absolutely crazy circumstance. I know Danny feels passionately about that as well. Danny, Charles, I'll let you go first and Danny follow up.
I hate the NIL. I hate the NIL. And I said this not just now. I says, teammates going to start hating each other. Teammates going to start hating each other. I says, because let's be realistic. There's only a couple guys in football. The quarterback, the running back, the wide receiver going to have great NIL deals. Because those are the glory positions. All those guys going to get paid, and the rest of the team, like, can you imagine being a big offensive lineman who has to do all the work? You're like, oh, why homeboy got a car? I'm asking, the reason he don't get sacked and the running back getting all these yards is because of me. Like, yeah, nobody's buying the offensive lineman's jersey. So I think there's going to be real resentment in the locker rooms. And in basketball, let's take trying to think, who was like that boy, Paolo Banchero and Jabari Smith at Auburn. Like, they going to get great NIL deals. Chet Holmgren, those probably going to be the top 3 picks in the draft. But the other guys on the team be like, this dude got a car deal. He got a meal deal. He's got all this other money he's making. I work just as hard as him. So I think it's going to be really bad. And I saw something Deion Sanders said. He said, small schools ain't got no chance now. And that's one of my, other than teammates hating each other, one of my other big concern is it's just going to be a bidding war now. And these little schools, they ain't got no chance at all. And I think, man, it's just the toothpaste out the tube now. I don't know what the hell it said, but the NCAA, they're boneheads. They should have addressed some of this stuff 20 years ago. Like I say, now the toothpaste is out the tube, and now we can't put it back in there. I don't know how this thing gonna end. I do know one thing, it's gonna end badly because teammates gonna start hating each other. First of all, think about this. This is how corrupt this thing is. The only way that one kid, how does he know how much that other dude making? I guarantee you they're represented by the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't go around telling people how much money you make. But I know there's people out there now who specialize in NIL. So they're going to have their clients like, hey, I got what's his name this much money. I got what's his name this much money. Because how does Wong know how much money that other kid makes? That should be private. But they probably represented by the same people, or the guy kind of circumvented, like told it behind his back, like, hey, this is how much we're getting this kid to come here. So, man, I'm really concerned where college athletics are going. I'm not a big fan of the NIL. So, like I say, I just don't know. But I thought Deion's point was like one of my big pet peeves. Yo, man, it's just going to be a bidding war. Little schools are going to be locked out now. And kids are going to be making decisions on something like, hey, where can I get the most money? That's where I'm going. And now it's going to get ugly in the next few years.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's a weird day. I do think that college kids should get paid, but I think it needs to be constructed a better way. And I agree with you, Chuck. It's going to ruin a lot of locker rooms. It's going to ruin a lot of, I guess, certain schools getting the recruits that they want. But it's today's day, it's just so different. A lot of kids are spoiled, different generation, a lot of social media. I just think it needs to be constructed or orchestrated a different way. It's just crazy to see, even think about these college kids getting paid the way they're getting paid and just how they're transferring, or whenever things don't go there. I've seen people transfer that have no business transferring, or just because they're not getting what they want, or because of money, or just they feel like they should be a superstar here. Kids change schools all the time now. Obviously, COVID changed a lot of things. Kids get a 5th year, but now to be able to transfer and not have to sit out a year, I think they might have changed that rule. But it's just strange to see college sports at where it is now. From when I played, of course, when you played, but when I played, guys didn't get paid.
It's the wild, wild west now.
So it's just interesting and weird to watch and see.
Yeah, go ahead, Chuck.
Like I say, I want these kids to get taken care of, and I actually have no problem with them getting paid. But when you start turning everything into a bidding war, somebody always gonna have more money.
Yeah. And it gets ugly.
Yeah, and so I don't know the solution, but I do blame the NCAA because they should have been handling this 20 years ago, and now it's too late. And I don't know what listen, I don't think anybody know what the hell gonna happen now, because it is the wild, wild west, and I don't know what the hell gonna happen.
Yeah, obviously you have the G League Ignite, the NBA's G League team for guys who could skip college and start the pro process early. But once you get into this NCAA situation now, it is definitely the wild, wild west, like you said, Chuck. And I don't think
let me tell you something. So this is going to kill. To me, this is going to kill the G League because I can make more. I can go. First of all, you only go. One of the dirty, dark secrets of college basketball is these guys who know that they're gonna be one and done. They're only going to class for like 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I'm a great player, I'm gonna be able to do this here. Wait a minute, Chuck. You get to go to college, make a lot of money for 3 months. You ain't got to worry about moving your family. Because if you go to the G League, you got to bring your whole family with you more than likely. So that little chump change they're paying you, that ain't worth it. I'm like, wait a minute, you're gonna give me give me half? You say threw some numbers out there, guys making $500,000. I said, well, first of all, that's not $500,000. Once you pay taxes, it ain't that much. But you probably got to bring your mom and dad and brothers and sisters to move across the country. Now I'm like, oh, I don't even have to do that anymore. I can go to college for 3 months. I got a great place to sleep. I get 3 square meals a day. I'm on national television to promote my brand. I could make at least $500,000 or more. And I'm gonna go to class for the first semester. And then by the time I get my grades the second time, I don't care. So I think this new NIL thing is gonna be disastrous for the G League.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see how it turns out, for sure. And as you guys alluded to, the relationship with teammates is going to be one to watch in every locker room. But where chemistry is undeniable as it pertains to teammates is on the inside of the NBA set. You guys have something in common. You guys have both had Shaquille O'Neal as your teammates. Danny in Cleveland in his rookie season, and Charles now. Before we get out of here, I would love to hear a story from either of you guys, if not both, about your experiences with the big Aristotle, Big Diesel, however you want to call him. And actually, it's wild. I was watching YouTube the other day, and I just ran across the clip where Shaq was saying that the moon is only 10 hours from the Atlanta studio because you can see it, and it's closer than Los Angeles. Yeah,
you can't see California.
Yeah, first of all, he's great to work with. He's a lot of fun. When we're sitting there, we were doing a salute to John Glenn, the first American that went to space. And Shaq, first of all, he don't know anything about life. He's like, who's John Glenn? We're like, dude, everybody know who John Glenn is. Like he met, he said he was in New York one time, and Mariano Rivera said, hey, make sure you tell Chuck I said hello. He's okay. He comes back, he says, hey, this dude pitched for the Yankees.
Oh, man.
Told me to tell you hello. I said, well, who is it?
Greatest closer in history of baseball.
Mary something. I said, Mariano Rivera? He's like, I think that's his name. I said, you don't know who that is? No, I don't know who that is. I do this, the greatest closer, one of the greatest pitchers ever. And he just don't care. But the thing that's really funny about it is that night he says, oh, John Glenn, okay. He said, is it closer to the moon or LA? And Ernest says, excuse me? He said, like, is it closer to the moon or LA? And Ernie says, are you being serious right now? And he says, yeah. He says, well, when I walk outside, I can see the moon. I can't see LA. And Ernie says, are you really being serious? And Shaq, he's like, it's a serious question. Let's walk outside. I can see the moon. I can't see LA. And Ernie says, yo, man, it's something wrong with you.
I think he just likes to have the conversation going. He likes to stir up stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
But it's like, we're like, yo, man, it's a long way to the moon. But and I'll tell you another funny story. People know Shaq likes to smoke hookah. So when and Shaq doesn't really drink. So when we get off work at 1:30 in the morning, we always go have a couple drinks because we're so wired when we leave the studio. And Shaq's always bitching and complaining like, you guys, I don't want to drink, I don't drink, and I got nothing to do when we get off work, and blah, 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 blah. And so he loves to smoke hookah. So he comes in like 2 months later, hey guys, I solved my problem. I'm like, what problem? Remember y'all go to this little bar, it's a little dive bar we go to, have drinks after the show, until you get sleepy. You're like, I solved my problem. We're like, we didn't know you had a problem. He says, I found something to do. I found something to do after the show. We're like, what's that? He says, I bought a hookah bar. We're like, what? He says, yeah, I bought a hookah bar. So I have somewhere to go after the show. And you were like, that's how you solve the problem. I mean, and that's him, man. This dude bought a hookah bar so he have a place to go after the show because he doesn't drink and he don't. I like, but that's like me and Ernie and Ken, like, that's just Shaq.
One of the most interesting
cashed
men in the world,
on the NIL checks early. That's what that is.
Yeah, hey, he's a funny dude, man. He's like, this dude just bought a hookah bar. So he have a place to go smoke hookah after work.
One of the most interesting men, man. I said I was a rookie, so he was great to me, but obviously there was moments where I was a little bit bullied, but told me a lot of good stuff. He had me pledging, basically. Shaq was a Q, if I'm not mistaken, and had me pledging as a rookie. I was the only rookie, and I was not a non-playing rookie. So it's a lot different when you're a rookie and you play, and a rookie that doesn't play. So I had to be like the team assistant, carry shoes, carry luggage, run errands, get headphones, Guitar Heroes, all type of random things. And he had me pledging. I had to greet them a certain way. I had to learn a step. I had to, do random things.
Wait, what? Wait, you had to learn a step?
Yeah, he taught me a little step. He taught me a way to greet them. I had to greet each one of them, those guys, a certain way.
Danny,
when you pledge, you have to learn a lot. It's a process, and they have to, like, it's kind of a hazing process. So he had me do a little bit of that during that time. But it taught me a lot of humbling and some good lessons, and what the NBA was going to be like, but also playing with him, which said he was an interesting dude.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude.
Danny, the fans of Inside the Green Room want to see the step.
Maybe one day. I don't know if I could still remember.
Give people what they want, Danny.
It wasn't that hard.
He can't be dancing around. He got to gain the bar. He got to save
it. Yeah, we got to lock in, man. When it's done and over, if we win it, I'll do the step for you guys. When we win it, we play in the finals, hopefully against Phoenix, I don't know if I can remember it well enough. It wasn't that hard of a step, though.
So here we go, before Chuck gets out of here. Danny, can you guarantee that you'll do the step if you win the second round series?
I guarantee it. I'll do the step.
I like
If we win, I'll do the step.
I like that.
All right. Well, Chuck, you got to double. If Danny's giving a guarantee, damn sure you'd give us a guarantee, please.
Well,
we could do the games tonight. There are games tonight, right? So we can see.
No, we got to do Wednesday because this drops Wednesday.
Okay.
I guarantee the Phoenix Suns are gonna win.
Okay.
The NBA Finals.
No, I didn't say that. You said
okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Chuck, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time. Cannot wait to watch Inside the NBA like I always do tonight, Wednesday, and throughout the entirety of the playoffs. Then hopefully when the season is over, you and Danny can link up. You could show him around Philly a little bit more.
Yeah, man.
I can definitely do that. Hey, man, it's been an honor and a privilege. Danny, keep doing your thing, man. Good luck.